Hello, and welcome to another episode of JTB Sports. Yes, I know it's been a while. We haven't really been consistent with the series. Hoping to change that someday. But the last episode we did was on the divisional round, right? Actually, a day before the conference championship. A lot has happened since then. Cincinnati made the Super Bowl and then lost, because of course they did.
Good,
But
we're getting that elephant in the room out of the way right away.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
good.
I don't want that to be the
Yeah.
focal point of the video because
Mhm.
that's still, I mean, at this point it's been almost 3 weeks since that's happened, but it's gonna hurt a lot longer than 3 weeks. So the main point I wanted to do, or the main thing I wanted to make this video or episode about was, so back in April, me and Jay did a video on the NFL draft, a reaction video actually, of the Bengals taking Jamar Chase. Now, at this time, I did not want that to happen. I wanted them to make the logical move by getting Penei Sewell and waiting until the second round to get a wide receiver. They did not do that. They took Jamar Chase, and I was very, very upset at the time. So I'll put a link to in the description below to that video because wasn't really able to show it during the stream because of Discord limitations. But I told Jay, or I made a bet with Jay a while ago. This wasn't on JTB Sports. I don't think we made the bet on the show, but we made a bet that if Cincinnati made the playoffs and won a playoff game, something I had never seen them do prior to a couple weeks ago, I would buy a Jamar Chase jersey and say how wrong I was and how he's the greatest wide receiver that the Bengals have ever had. Well, so I'm gonna get a little flack here because I didn't buy the jersey because that was $120 and I'm a broke ass college student. So you guys can dunk on me all you want for that. But
I don't blame you.
Yeah, don't blame you.
I was able to get something else. A t-shirt jersey for Jamar Chase, which was about only a fourth the price of a full price game jersey. So there we go. I'm wearing a Jamar Chase jersey-esque t-shirt.
What a change from the draft day. What a change.
Jamar Chase is the best wide receiver the Bengals have ever had and ever will have. And I was wrong, and I was a big idiot for ever doubting him and thinking they should have taken Penei Sewell.
No,
There,
and you
I
know,
said it. What?
props to you, Thomas, for
Don't I
owning
get
up.
any
Props
round
to
of
you.
applause? Come on.
Yeah, props.
Props to you. Here's what I will say. Here's what I gotta say though. I still think you were in the right for being upset, and the Bengals just got extremely lucky. That's what I think happened.
That is probably a good point, considering Joe Burrow was sacked 70 times over the course of the regular and postseason.
And not even like just lucky in terms of how far they made it. They got lucky that Chase panned out. They still should have
Yeah.
taken an O-lineman.
Yep. I'm hoping now that that is the obvious need that they'll try and address that over the coming weeks in free agency, and I wouldn't mind if they take a couple more linemen in the draft.
Definitely.
Speaking of, I would really like to talk about free agency projections since that's coming up. We might do an episode. I mean, I can't guarantee anything at this point considering episodes have just been here and there, but I would like to do an episode post free agency to see what we think of the signings that our teams did and maybe just some of the bigger ones across the league. But
Yeah, for sure.
obviously, we'll start with Cincinnati just because we're already on that team. Obviously, we need offensive linemen, and I would prefer they try and fix this in free agency instead of the draft because the draft, when people say, oh, that person's a sure pick, they never truly are. So I would rather spend money on a guy who's already proven himself rather than taking a risk with somebody who's young.
Agreed.
Um, that being said, I don't want us to spend our entire cap on like star O linemen. Like the biggest names available, I think, are Terran Armstead from the Saints and Brandon Schreff from the Washington Commies, which I don't think that was a thing when we did our last episode.
It was not. This is new.
Nope.
But moving on, I don't want Brandon Schreff because he's 30, which that's good for an offensive lineman, but the guy hasn't played a season where he didn't get injured in like the past 5 years. Terran Armstead I'd be okay with, but he's gonna cost like $20 million a year, so that's just gonna eat up that cap space that they have. Like, I mean, at this point, Cincinnati's O-line is so bad that you could go with a bunch of B-tier O-linemen. You don't need to go get the absolute best, but if you just settle with a bunch of B-tier O-linemen, that would be a massive upgrade over what we have.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, with the amount of cap space that Cincinnati has, I say just go all in. And especially considering that you guys have a good defense. It's not great, it's good. And you have a really good offense. Like you have what you need to get back to the Super Bowl. You just need that O line. So use that top, I think it's what, fourth in the league cap space, you said,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Use that to build that O line. Go all in. That's what I think.
That being said, that is not their only need. That's their biggest need, but their second biggest need is corner. Because this past year and the Super Bowl really showed us that Cincinnati needs to invest in better cornerbacks. Thank you, Eli Apple, for blowing coverage against Cooper Kupp for the game-winning, or the game-losing touchdown, I should say. That honestly reminded me of Super Bowl 23 when the Bengals lost to the 49ers. There was a safety or a corner named Andrew or Philip Billings. I can't remember his first name. I just know his last name was Billings. I think it was Andrew Billings, where Joe Montana threw a horrible pass and Billings could have picked it off, but he dropped it. And if they would have picked it off, they would have been able to run the clock out. So Super Bowl 56, this past Super Bowl, I mean, was exactly like Super Bowl 23 to me. Because the opposing team took a long-ass drive down the field at the end of the game to go ahead and take the lead with very little time left. The same damn thing happened in Super Bowl 23 against the 49ers. And the thing was, I wanted the 49ers to lose to the Rams. I wanted the Rams to win because I didn't want to see the fucking Bengals lose that way in the Super Bowl again, and then they end up doing it to the Rams.
It would have happened
how
either
they
way.
lose Super Bowls is they lose on the final fucking drive.
It was just pure pain. And the thing is, like, so I'm not even a Bengals fan. However, I was all in on the Bengals, like on this run. I love Joe Burrow, and obviously I was rooting for him hard because you're a Bengals fan. And it hurt me when they lost. And I just was, and so if it hurt me, a non-Bengals fan, I can't imagine what it must have felt like.
It hurt a lot, and it's going to continue to hurt for a long time. The problem is, I kept saying I would be okay with them losing to the Chiefs or even the Titans. It's just when you lose in the playoffs, it stings. But when you're the seed, the lower seed, like the team with no expectations, and you lose in the playoffs, it's whatever, fine. You always come back better next year, considering you weren't even expected to get this far. But the problem is losing the Super Bowl. To me, it doesn't matter if you were the team not expected to get there. That doesn't matter. To me, if you get to the Super Bowl, you have to win it. There's no, oh, I'm just happy we made it to the Super Bowl. And I guess it's kind of hypocritical of me to say that because I bought 2 AFC Champs shirts. But I guess my reasoning behind that was it might be another 30 years before they make the Super Bowl, so I better cash in now.
Yeah. And I mean, the thing is, you can always hold your head high that they are the AFC champions until they're
Yeah.
beat, unless they're beaten next year, of course. And then, I mean, at the end of the day, I get what you're saying. Like, you made the Super Bowl and you were within like a minute of getting that one goal that every team wants. And the fact is, there are 30 some other teams that are going to be fighting you again next year. It's not just you and one other team anymore. It's straight back to you and
Yep,
30 others.
it's back to square one. And
Yeah.
I keep thinking the reason I don't think it's gonna be so soon for them to get back is because part of it this season was just luck. Like no fan ever wants to admit that it was just luck that it got them someplace. And obviously it's never complete luck unless you're like the Steelers. But
Mhm.
the thing is, what they won the division, yes, but you have to look at the fact that the Browns and the Ravens both completely fell apart due to injuries.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And the
Definitely.
Steelers are, well, the Steelers are the Steelers. And then when they got to the postseason, the Raiders were not a very, I mean, the Raiders
They were good.
not the greatest team. They're good, but they were certainly not the best team in the postseason.
No.
Mhm.
The Titans were like one of the weakest number one seeds I've seen in a long time. And even then, they still could have won. It's just Ryan Tannehill could not stop shooting himself in the foot with a lot of boneheaded picks.
Yeah.
Then I
Yeah.
have to, the one game I do feel like I have to give credit to is them beating the Chiefs, because in that game, I mean, Joe Burrow said it himself in the post-game interview after the Super Bowl, which was heartbreaking because you could tell he just got done crying. He said, one thing I learned is, like, after Kurt Warner lost the Super Bowl with the Cardinals years back, he said one thing he regretted was not celebrating what they did accomplish and kept focusing on the negative.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
The Bengals did tie the record for largest comeback in a conference championship game, which was 18 points. They were down 18, and the Colts were down 18 against the Patriots in the 2006 AFC Championship. So I constantly forget or glance over the fact that the Bengals are one of the two teams in the league that tied the record for the largest comeback in a conference championship game. But I mean,
Yeah. It's something to hang your hat on, at least.
I know,
And and like Jay said, you're AFC champions until you're eventually dethroned from that spot. But yeah, I obviously get that there's no other feeling like watching your favorite team losing the Super Bowl. So I imagine it'll take some time to fully recover and heal from that. But
and see,
I'm
I know
sure.
there's. Sorry.
I was just gonna say, I would like to think maybe me and Jay will be able to experience that someday with the Vikings, but I don't know.
I don't know if you want it. I mean,
Yeah.
I know you've lost. I know the Vikings have lost a lot in the conference championship, and I imagine that hurts. Like, I'm gonna assume the most painful loss that you felt was against the Saints in the 09 conference championship.
Definitely.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Well,
Because we got screwed. That's why.
yeah. Well, I mean, I would feel. I'm not trying to stick a dagger in you,
Adrian
but
Peterson, I know.
well, the fact that you were gonna win as long as you just ran the ball on that last drive, like you were already in field goal range. Yeah, I imagine it's gonna hurt for a while, and I know there's reasons to be optimistic about the future because got plenty of cap space to spend on O-linemen and fix the cornerback position, because I don't think there's really any other blatant holes on the roster other than corner and O-linemen. But something else to consider is regression. That happens,
You
especially
see,
especially considering a Super Bowl hangover. A team can have
Yeah.
everything, like a team can have everything they need, and they just fall off. Look at the Panthers in 2016. Went from 15 wins to 6. Cam Newton played like shit that year.
and
It just
here's what I'd say about that. Like, when I think about a team that suffers Super Bowl hangover, usually it's going to be a team that's like already established. Like they're like, I don't want to say a dynasty, but you know kind of what I'm talking about. And with the Bengals, like they weren't even supposed to make it this year, and they've just only been improving. And so I don't see them falling off because they've just continuously improved. It hasn't been like they've been established for the past few years or so, Like,
yeah.
so that would be, I don't see it happening. That's just me, though.
I can see what you're saying. It's just the another, I guess, one of those reasons to be optimistic is this is a rebuild year.
Yeah.
I mean, there was absolutely no way in hell people, even the coaches, didn't think they were going to get that far because, I mean, look at their roster. Like, Eli Apple wasn't supposed to be a long-term starter. They just signed him because they had uh, depth issues at corner. I see a cat ear in your frame, Brett.
Yes, that's my cat. He won't go
Um,
away.
but speaking of, I'd like to talk about a certain corner named Eli Apple and how I never want to see him on our fucking roster ever again. I'm not even that pissed that he blew his coverage assignment against Cooper Kupp that allowed that touchdown. My problem isn't with him is the fact that he talks so much shit, even though he is a shitty player. He fucking sucks. He was an absolute draft bust. And he has the audacity to come out here and talk all this shit before the Super Bowl. And then, well, I mean, you talk shit, you get hit. And that is exactly what happened because he got burned repeatedly, which is something he seems to be good at doing. Fucking idiot.
I guess according to like all advanced measurements, Eli Apple had a career year with the Bengals. So
I don't care.
um,
I don't want him
Just
on the roster.
immediately
You can
shakes
do
his
better
head.
than him. Let's be honest. Let's be honest. He might have had a career year, but you can still do much better than him.
I mean, this is Eli Apple we're talking about. A career year for him. That's not
Is
saying
2
much.
picks. 2 picks is a career year for him. 2 fucking
But yeah, I
picks.
Yeah.
mean, sorry, go ahead, Brett.
I was gonna say you could, if you don't want to re-sign Eli Apple, you can re-sign Vernon Hargraves,
Oh my
the guy who
God.
got
I didn't
penalized
even
for
get.
celebrating.
You didn't even let me get to him. Fuck that guy too. You mean I can? You could
What a
argue
fucking
that
idiot.
Eli Apple at least contributed somewhat. I mean, he got burned quite a bit this season, from what I remember. But there were other times where he could actually play fairly well, usually when they were playing a bad quarterback. But he could contribute somewhat. Vernon Hargraves was picked up off of waivers halfway through the season, just because, again, the only reason Cincinnati has so many of these shitty corners is because they have absolutely no depth at that position. Their only good corners are Mike Hilton and Chidobe Awuzie. So they picked him up. He played like, I want to say, less than 20 snaps throughout the entire year. His only playoff appearance in their run was against the Raiders, and I remember he had like a 15-yard penalty in that play for like face mask. But he was
What an
inactive.
idiot.
He was inactive against the Titans, Chiefs, and Rams. And you saw he was inactive against the Rams, and the fucking moron runs onto the field after they score a touchdown. And he goes and runs onto the field when he's not in uniform.
Really unbelievable stuff. Like, how can you be that stupid? What did he think would happen? He was just going to be able to do that? No consequences? God.
That was funny.
Oh man.
Well,
But
I
yeah,
guarantee he's not going to be on the. I mean, Eli Apple part of me, deep down, part of me is scared that they're going to be stupid enough to re-sign him because it's Cincinnati and they still make bad personnel decisions. But I guarantee Vernon Hargraves will not be on the roster next year. I guarantee he won't.
No, yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Him,
probably not.
him and Trey Waynes can fuck off to like New York, one of the New York teams, which I'd like to talk about. I mean, this is kind of a recap video, so I'm just gonna quickly go over Trey Waynes. Talk about a bust of a signing. 3-year, $43 million corner or contract for a guy who played like started one game, and he was always the backup when other than that, he was a backup or on special teams, or he was injured. I mean, obviously you can't blame him for injuries, but there was one game of the season where he did have to start in place of Chidobe Awuzie, and he got burned by Drew Lock.
Yeah,
Drew Lock.
I don't really know how he got that contract because, like, me and Brett watched him, and he wasn't anything special,
He was
to
just
say
meh.
the least. Yeah, I don't know how he got that contract. So,
Luckily, I think Cincinnati's going to cut him. That would be the smartest thing because if they cut him, they would save $10 million in cap
good idea.
for that guy.
Yeah, he's for sure a cap casualty.
That being said, we're going to be down to like 3. I mean, not counting all the contracts expiring and Trey Waynes more likely getting cut. Cincinnati's going to be down to like 2 corners. Chidobe Awuzie and Mike Hilton. Because Eli Apple's contract is up. Trey Waynes is going to get cut. Vernon Hargraves obviously won't be on the team. And they drafted a corner in the 5th round a couple years ago. His name's Darius Phillips, number 23. I'm pretty sure he got himself cut against the 40. Well, he's still on the team, but after his performance against the 49ers back in Week 14, I don't think he's going to be on the team anymore either because he fumbled 3 punt returns, 2 of which went to the 49ers. So I don't think he's going to be on the roster anymore either.
Probably not.
Okay. What?
I guess I just wanted to touch when I was looking up articles about the Super Bowl. There was an article that was about Evan McPherson, who stayed on the sidelines during the
apparently
halftime
people
show.
have a problem with that.
I guess the special teams coach of the Bengals said it was a sore subject that he stayed on the field for the halftime show and watched it.
I thought it was kind of funny, honestly.
What's
I
the
did
issue?
too.
Like, what are you going to talk over with your kicker at halftime that he needs to be in the locker room?
I mean, he was magic. He was money the entire postseason, so I don't think he needed any coaching.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was like, what, 12 for 12 on field goal attempts in the postseason? Or
He was
something like
12
that?
for 12 in the first 2, the first 2 games. He was 14 for 14. He was 12 for 12 in the playoff games, and then 2 for 2 in the Super Bowl. I don't know if I'm the only one who does this, but I kind of separate playoff games from Super Bowls. Like when you look up videos on YouTube of the last team's playoff win, like the Broncos per se, the person put Super Bowl 50 against the Panthers. Which, I don't know. I've always kind of considered them separate because I think the Super Bowl is bigger than just a playoff game.
Yeah. I think there are kind of like 3 no, there's more. There's probably 4 levels. There's preseason, regular season, playoff, Super Bowl in my eyes.
Nobody gives a shit about preseason.
Yeah, those are like the 4 levels in my opinion.
Yeah, the only reason anybody, including myself, ever watches preseason football is because there's nothing else to watch, or just people are happy to see some kind of football again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, you guys want to talk about Vikings potential free agent signings?
Yeah, we could do that.
Sure.
I guess if you want to start off, Brett, since I haven't paid a huge amount of attention.
I guess I haven't really researched or dug into potential free agency stuff they could do, but I guess I can talk about what's happened so far. So the Vikings, they fired Mike Zimmer. Um, and I guess we probably discussed this when during our last podcast, probably we probably mentioned that Lee Zimmer was fired.
We did, yeah.
Um, and that, but we didn't know who the new coach would be at that time, because it was announced like the day before the Super Bowl. The Vikings were going to hire the Rams offensive coordinator Kevin O'Connell as their next head coach, and then like a month prior to that, they hired their new GM, Kwesi Odofu-Mensah, who was a former Browns like vice president of player personnel, I believe. So both like in their late 30s, early 40s, young-minded, like offense, like Kevin O'Connell, at least offensive oriented, coming from that side of the ball. And I think it's exciting. I don't know what to expect from the first season under O'Connell. Assuming we keep Kirk Cousins at quarterback and the offense remains pretty much the same, get more depth on the O-line. Maybe, I mean, their main offensive weapons, their 3 wide receivers and their 2 running backs and their main tight end, I think are all set in stone entering next year. So it'll be interesting to see what this new offense does under O'Connell, especially how Justin Jefferson prospers underneath it. Hopefully he can have maybe like a Cooper Kupp like season with this offense. And then the defense is going to go through a whole new revamping with like they hired the Broncos defensive coordinator. So it's going to be a different scheme, it looks like, on defense. That's going to be a 3-4 defense instead of a 4-3. So I think maybe that would be nice. I think all of our best players can probably play in either defense. And as far as like who they should go after in the draft and free agency, I think their biggest need is probably at cornerback. We have a young guy there in Cameron Dantzler. We have Patrick Peterson. He's a free agent. I think he wants to come back. That seems to be the indication.
We'll take him. Well, I'll take him if you don't want him. I mean, that would
I
be
mean,
an
I would-
upgrade. I mean,
I
he's
mean,
old
I
and
would
shit, but he guarantees better than Eli Apple.
he
Definitely.
did. He was solid for us. Like I didn't notice any bad play from Patrick Peterson.
Me neither.
Even despite him getting older and he was injured for a little bit this past year. But I would take him back. And yeah, I think. And then obviously the big question is, Kirk Cousins is on his final year of his contract. He's set to make about $45 million, I think. So that's kind of a hefty price tag.
Jeez.
The only way the Vikings probably can free up any sort of cap space to make more meaningful signings this offseason is if they extend Kirk Cousins another 2 years or maybe another year at least to kind of cut the cap space costs for him this year to make more room for signings. It seems that rumors are saying that Cousins is not going to take a pay cut regardless.
So no
I mean,
restructure.
I mean, he would probably restructure if he still gets more money down the line, more fully guaranteed money, but he's not going to straight up take a pay cut. He won't let $5 million just be cut away from his contract. So
Wow, he's greedy for a game manager. For a game
I
manager,
mean,
that's
I guess that's just how the business is. And yeah, that's like the second big question. They got to get some key pieces on defense, but Cousins, they got to have a plan for after Cousins, and it'll be interesting to see what they do. So I'll let you
Mondo.
talk about it. Talk about whatever you want, Jay.
Yeah. So, obviously, very good segment there, Brett. That was very logical. I like how you talked about all the facts. Let me just come in with some ridiculousness. Let's talk about the rumors that have been circulating in past weeks, such as Deshaun Watson and Kyler Murray. Obviously, at this point, like we're keeping Kirk, but I just want to mention the fact that Deshaun Watson has the Vikings on his list of potential suitors. Now, I don't know
Kind
how
of a
we feel
piece
about
of
this
shit, though, isn't he? Yeah.
because he is potentially a terrible human being.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if we really want that in our organization, if so. And
Yeah.
with Kyler, obviously that's just Vikings fans being hopeful when he deleted all of his Cardinals stuff off of his social media. Vikings fans got all hyped up about that. But yeah, it's fun to talk about rumors like those. But I mean, if we come back down to reality, we're keeping Kirk. And like I mean, I've made it known on this podcast that I don't really have an issue with Kirk. He's not a superstar. We know that. He's a solid quarterback, and I mean, the thing is, like, Matthew Stafford is a solid quarterback. I think he's probably better than Kirk, but not by a huge margin. And so, like, I feel like in the correct system, and which maybe Kevin O'Connell will bring to the table, Kirk could win a Super Bowl. I think it's possible. And like Brett said about Justin Jefferson, potentially he can have a Cooper Cup like season. And even O'Connell even said in an interview that he's planning on structuring the offense in a way where Jefferson is the cup of the offense, of the Cooper Cup of the offense. So, which is interesting, by the way, because he's not like necessarily a slot receiver like Cup is, but I'm sure he can do it. He's really good. Besides that, I don't really have much else to say about the Vikings. I'm hopeful. We've got a weak division and a pretty weak conference. So, as depending on what happens with Rodgers, I should say.
Yeah, for sure.
That was Cincinnati last year. Cincinnati capitalized off their weak conference. That's probably part of the reason they made it.
Probably.
I'm afraid I don't want to hear urinating tree's voice because me and Brett here watch a lot of urinating tree. If probably none of our viewers know who that is, but I just don't want to hear him 3 years down the road. You only made it to the Super Bowl because you had a shitty conference that year. Kind of like, and you would think nobody would say that, but I mean, he constantly bashed Doug Peterson, say, you only won the Super Bowl because you played a Matt Patricia defense. Now, I know a lot of people don't like Doug Peterson for that that dumb shit that he pulled off against the football team in the last week of the 2020 season. But I still feel like he kind of got thrown under the bus because, yeah, the Eagles were never the same after that Super Bowl win. They just had a couple seasons where they went 9-7. But considering that those 2 years they were injured to hell and back, and they still made the postseason, I think that's a pretty damn good accomplishment.
Definitely.
But yeah. I guess the popular thing was to just throw Doug Peterson under the bus, which doesn't matter now because now he's a head coach again.
Yeah, good for him.
Yeah.
I feel like he can fix Jacksonville. I just like to throw that out there. It's going to take a little bit, obviously, considering how horrible of a situation that team is in.
At least he has Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah. But they have, he has no wide receivers to throw to. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Marvin Jones, who's older than shit.
Yeah.
Jamal Agnew, who the hell's that?
You know, Agnew had a few solid weeks.
Yeah, I know.
But
they threw James Robinson under the bus.
They did.
You know, he's a pretty decent running back. And then they drafted what's his name? Urban Meyer drafted Travis Etienne in the first round, even though they already had James Robinson. I just like to throw that out there.
Yeah, it's interesting. Interesting.
But back about your urinating tree comment, he'll probably shit on the Bengals a couple years from now, because that's just what he does with every team. But I don't know, wasn't his reaction he kind of felt bad for the Bengals because I guess we never discussed it. That final drive where the Rams did push all the way down the field, and then eventually got the game-winning touchdown. There was a suspect holding call
Yeah, that was
or
bullshit.
pass interference.
That was
Yeah,
bullshit.
on
I was
Logan
thinking,
Wilson.
yay, Logan made it. Logan Wilson, our middle linebacker, did a pretty damn good job, or did a good job covering up the
Yeah,
receiver over the middle, and then they called that
and then
defensive
like
pass
what?
interference or holding. Or
Yeah,
I thought
and
it
then
was
the very
bullshit. But the
and then
thing
like the
is,
very oh,
what?
go ahead. I was
Well,
just
the
gonna say
thing
like the
is,
very next play, Eli Apple got called for holding, right, or something like
yeah,
that.
pass interference. That was actually, I think that was actually a good call because Eli Apple was
Yeah,
just trying not to get burned. It didn't matter because it happened the next play. Sometimes receivers you know that sometimes corners or safeties deliberately do something to get called for pass interference just to prevent a touchdown. Just because, yeah, pass interference sucks, but it's better than giving up a touchdown because although they're at the 1 yard line, there's still always a chance that you will stop them rather than giving up a touchdown.
Yeah. I mean, I feel
yeah,
like the mentality for a corner, if they're burned and the receiver is gonna score, like just do whatever you
Yeah, do
possibly can
whatever
to
you
keep him
have
from.
to do to
Yeah.
stop him because you always have can live to fight another down.
Yeah.
But
and then speaking of receivers burning corners, after the Rams scored what ended up being the game-winning touchdown, the preceding drive where the Bengals had a chance to go downfield and win the game. It was on that 4th-and-1 near midfield where Burrow just got pressured, and there
why you
would
gotta
have been
remind
a.
me of this? People already know this
It's
by this
just
point.
he
Yeah,
got
I know.
burned.
Jamar Chase
Jalen.
was open, but fucking Hakeem Adeniji and Isaiah Prince are such shit offensive linemen that they couldn't hold him for half a second.
Tom, do you remember that picture I sent you of the dude who was just blocking nobody? He was like, it looked like he was
Oh,
blocking
Quentin
a
Spain?
ghost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you want to know the sad thing? He's one of the better offensive linemen on that team.
Oh my God.
He's like the second best offensive lineman at that point.
It's
And they
just
might
sad.
re-sign him. They might re-sign him.
Yeah, I'm sorry to bring it up, but I wanted to at least address
You
the
wanted to
final.
torture me? Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, it's how it is.
I'm not gonna be like, oh fuck the refs, they cost us the game. I'm not like that because they kind of missed a face mask on T. Higgins, which
Yeah, they
on
wouldn't
that
have
big
scored that
touchdown at the
touchdown.
beginning of the third quarter. So I'm gonna
Yeah,
say it's somewhat balanced out.
Definitely.
I guess
It was the reason
I
they lost. The reason they lost was because of their offensive line, and I say that
And
not because
for
he
sure.
got sacked 7 times, but because it was because what they took a 7 point lead after that touchdown, and Stafford threw a pick, but they couldn't move the ball at all after that. They couldn't
Yeah,
move the ball even into field goal range. Because the
yeah.
offensive line, the right side of the line, was doing such a piss poor job at not only pass blocking but run blocking too, that they literally could not move the ball. You can't move the ball at all if you don't have anybody blocking for you.
Yeah. By the way, have you noticed a trend between the last two Super Bowls that one team's offensive line lost them the game?
Yeah, I mean, both were kind of well, Cincinnati's offensive line was shit either way, but injuries. Cincinnati would have had a better line if it were fully healthy, because I have to mention that it wasn't.
Yeah.
Isaiah Prince should not have been the starting tackle in that game. He only was because Riley Reef had gotten hurt a couple weeks before. Riley Reef isn't the greatest offensive lineman, but I guarantee you would be a massive upgrade over Isaiah Prince. And then Hakeem Adeniji was in because I think the Bengals' second-round pick, Jackson Carman, hurt his back against the Chiefs. Granted, Jackson Carman didn't really play that much better than Hakeem Adeniji, but I mean, I have to mention, because going back to the beginning of the 2021 season, all of their entire offensive line actually consisted of first or former second round picks. because
Interesting.
Riley Reef was a first-round pick, I think, back in 2011, 2010. And then the guard where Hakeem Adeniji was playing was at the beginning of the season was Xavier Su'a-Filo, who was a former second-round pick. Trey Hopkins, yeah, he was undrafted. Quentin Spain was a second-round pick. And Jonah Williams, the only good offensive lineman on the team the whole year, was a first-round pick. So
Wow.
Yeah.
I guess Cincinnati not only needs to get better offensive linemen, they also need to get more depth, which I think Jackson Carman's going to be a backup. I don't think he's going to be a starter.
Probably, and probably rightfully so, definitely. Yeah, I
Who's your
mean,
who's the Bengals starting center even? Because that's probably a big need
Trey
as well.
Hopkins,
Oh,
because
okay.
they traded away Billy Price, remember? Which
Yeah.
you laughed
They
at
got
that. You laughed at that, but Billy Price was not very good.
I did, but didn't the guy they get back, the D lineman they got back in return, actually like
Pan
made
out,
some
yeah. BJ
pretty
Hill, he picked
yeah,
off Pat
BJ
Mahomes
Hill.
in that conference championship game.
Yeah,
I
so
hope they
it worked
re-sign
out.
him because, he was on a trade contract, meaning he was done at the end of the year, but I'm expecting that they re-sign him because he's pretty good.
Yeah, so it worked out. It's just funny, he was a first round pick, and it just didn't pan out
Well, that's the
for
thing.
him.
That's why I don't want Cincinnati to try to invest in the draft to fix their offensive line because they've tried this before. Like over the past 6-7 years, they've only drafted out of all the O linemen they've drafted, only one of them really panned out thus far, and that's Jonah Williams.
hmm
Because in 2015 they drafted some guy named Cedric Ogbuehu. I can't pronounce. I probably butchered his last name, but he was a bust. I think they cut him after like 3 years. Then they drafted Billy Price, who was a bust. I don't know why the Giants traded away B.J. Hill for Billy Price. I guess they were that desperate for offensive linemen. They drafted Jackson Carman, and he has not really shown. I mean, granted, from what I heard, he was a reach. He was expected to go in the 3rd or 4th round, and they took him in the 2nd. That just shows that they don't know what they're doing when it comes to scouting offensive line talent in the draft. I mean, even if they fix it with free agents, which they better, I still want them to draft O-linemen because they need depth especially if you're playing with a bunch of old guys at offensive line. Like, say if they re-sign Riley Reef, which they might, even though he's been hurt in every season since 2015, they need to draft a tackle in like the 1st round that can take his place if they re-sign him because he's probably going to get hurt again. And even then, if they
yeah,
do re-sign him, it's only going to be a 1-year deal because he hasn't been able to stay healthy, and that's why I don't want them to sign Brandon Schreff because he hasn't been able to stay healthy either. You got to look at their durability.
yeah, definitely. And I mean, maybe you guys would be better at scouting O-linemen if you actually had scouts.
Yeah, that would be helpful, but Mike Brown doesn't think that we need to pay money or pay for scouts. He expects the coaches to do the scouting.
What a cheap ass old bag.
Well, I mean, as much as I hate him, he actually said that after the Super Bowl, he's like, we're gonna make significant efforts at helping Joe this offseason. So
Okay.
he signaled,
Okay.
yeah, he signaled that they're actually gonna invest in free agents. I mean, they did last year. They did last year. They got Trey Hendrickson and Chidobe Awuzie. So they have been getting more aggressive when it comes to it. But I mean, if Mike Brown says himself that they're actually gonna try a little bit harder in free agency, I would assume that's a sign for the better.
Is your profile pic Mike Brown? I can't really see
Yeah,
it. It's
yeah,
tiny.
yeah.
Nice.
It's that picture where he looks like a snowman. He looks like Frosty the Snowman to me.
It's a good picture.
Um, well, I mean, there's not really that much more to go over. We've kind of said what we want to see our teams get in free agency, and we'll hopefully do an episode after free agency just so I can get pissed off that either Cincinnati will actually not invest a lot in free or offensive linemen, or they'll spend all their money on one, like Terran Armstead.
Yeah.
But with that being said, we will see you on the next episode of JTB Sports.
Peace out.
See you guys.